I told my dad about tracing the birth father when I next was in Glasgow because I couldn't do it on the phone. And I remember us both being really emotional and him feeling very betrayed, I guess, in the moment of me telling him. I think when he realized that I'd felt so bad and that I had not taken it any further, that was a one-off conversation once and done, and we've never revisited it. So, yeah, it was very weird.
Who am I?
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 This is Who Am I, Really? A podcast about adoptees that have located and connected with their biological family members.
I'm Damon Davis, and you're about to meet Lauren. She spoke to me from southwest of England in the UK. Lauren grew up knowing she was adopted, was loyal to her family, but applying to university and thinking through her life made her want to trace her roots. When she found her birth mother, she met a woman who started off chilly, but warmed up when Lauren got to meet her parents, and Lauren learned that mother and daughter have something in common. Her birth father found her too after Lauren sent a letter, but in the end, she's not connected to either side of her birth families, choosing to let things be as they are. This is Lauren's journey. If you've been following me on social media at Damon L. Davis on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, you may have seen that I had a big opportunity to speak on stage at Mega Success 20, the seminal event hosted by JT Fox, a serial global entrepreneur. Now, if you know me at all, you already know that everywhere I go, I find a way to bring up my adoption journey in hopes of bringing out the adoption stories of others. I do this because no matter where we go, we're walking right past another adopted person. You could be at a major sporting event, a corporate conference, a quaint dinner party, literally anywhere, and you'll walk past another adopted person. At Mega Success, it's worked twice, and you've already heard from one of the entrepreneurs I met there, Misty, from episode 252 entitled Stoicism and Radical Acceptance. Well, today, I'm introducing you to another entrepreneur, Lauren. I heard her speak at Mega Success 19 of her battle with menopause and the launch of her Menopause Academy, which you can find at womenofacertainstage.com. We chatted briefly after her moving speech, and when I found out she was adopted too, I asked her to be here for you today. Our chat took place only 1 week before my appearance on the Mega Success 20 stage, and it was only the second time I got to meet Lauren face to face. Misty was at Mega Success as well, so I got us together for a photo that you'll see on Instagram at WAI Really. So that's the backstory of how Lauren and I connected. Lauren, born in London, England in the 1960s, grew up in Glasgow, Scotland, knowing she was adopted from the time she was an infant. Her parents didn't believe they could conceive naturally, so when she was born and went into foster care, they completed the legal process and took Lauren home. She grew up knowing she was adopted, never feeling any stigma or questioning of her status. And she was treated equally among her siblings, a brother who was born naturally to their parents 3.5 years, and a sister born 6.5 years after Lauren's adoption. I asked her what her family was like growing up in adoption.
Well, obviously, I'm the eldest child, and I think I definitely fall into that older child, the leader, the one that pushes forward. The oldest one's always the one that's got to set the boundaries and break all the rules and lead the way and protect everyone else. And I definitely fell into that role. My brother, who's the middle child, definitely was the middle child, always questioning his place. And my sister's the baby. She's very definitely the baby of the family and treated as such. I think that we just had a very regular family dynamic. We lived in a nice area. Mum and dad had both lost a parent when they were very young. They were both only children, but they had very close family. Like they had really big family. Their parents were one of 9 and one of 11, or like big families. So we had lots of second cousins and family that we would see on a Sunday and at the weekend. So it's always a really big sense of community. And yeah, I don't think as a youngster I really ever questioned anything very much at all. the reason I was smiling when you asked the question was because there was always a bit of a joke that my mum and I looked more alike and were more alike than my brother and sister were like my mum and dad. And I always
Really?
used to think that was really funny because people would go into shop or we'd go into the delicatessen to get our bagels and cream cheese on a Sunday, and people would just talk about how alike we were. And it just used to make me giggle. Mum and I would just have that look. But I was redhead. Mum used to dye her hair red or auburn, so maybe that was something. But I think you pick up each other's your facial gestures and the way you speak because that's who I learned it from. So I think that there's probably something in there. The nature nurture argument's always an interesting debate.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. What I'd love to hear what you think of when you think of nature versus nurture.
I think both play a big role. Your DNA and your genetics obviously have a big impact, but we know now that we can influence them. I didn't grow up knowing that, but I know that we can influence them. We're learning a lot more in that area. Clearly, your ideas, your values are shaped by your environment and by the people you surround yourself with. And because we had a very close family unit, I guess I was very influenced by my mum and dad. My dad's self-made; they came from very little, and he built various businesses over the years, and I worked with them from the age of 4. So I've always been very influenced by that kind of get up and go and being self-starting and highly independent. Was that nature or nurture? I don't know, but I definitely had examples around me that were setting that out for me.
You sound like you, in many ways, picked up on nuances from your mom, but I'm wondering about your relationships with your siblings. I presume you didn't necessarily look like them.
Not
Tell
at
me
all.
how you got along and how whether you looked alike or what were your similarities and differences with siblings?
Yeah, I think because there's 3.5 to 4 years between each of us, I remember my brother very, very clearly because this new baby came in and I was like there, my mum's helper to look after the new baby. And then I left home when I was 16 and went to university. And my sister doesn't ever really remember me living at home,
Hmm.
but I remember lots of fighting. Like there was a lot of sibling rivalry between the three of us and lots of different levels. And I was into judo and football and lots of very physical sports. And I think my brother, I used to go to football match with my dad on a Saturday morning, and that was our thing. That was how we spent time together. And then I would go, he had properties, so we would go and empty the phone boxes of the coins and then count them out. And then we'd sit on a Sunday and we would count the wages for the cleaning company staff. And we had this really strong bond. Then my brother came along and suddenly he got taken to the football and I didn't get taken to football anymore. And there's a lot of kind of these kind of rivalrous kind of situations that went on. So we were like, we would always have each other's back. And the phrase that came into my head there was blood's thicker than water, which is the irony, right? Because we always say that about our family. And I guess I used to think it and we would use that expression. But at the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but I'm not blood. And just have that kind of, but you park it, like you just park it. I think you put this mask on of, I belong, I fit in. And because you are part of the family. You've just come to be part of that family in a different way. So yeah, we had such big not big age differences, but I think 3, 4 years is enough that you're at a different stage of your development
Yeah.
when they come along. So it's different, I think, when some people have 3 kids under 3 and
Yeah.
everyone's really close and really tight and they're really great friends. I think we're brothers and sisters, if that makes sense. We'd always have each other's back.
But as the adoptee, as you reflect back, you can see where there were differences. I understand what you're saying, or at least in your own thought process, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's because of being adopted or whether it was because of the age difference. That's what I'm not
Mm,
sure.
I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, that makes sense
Yeah.
because you're right. For a senior in high school in America, is what we
Mhm.
call them, right?
Mhm.
That 3-year difference could
Mhm.
mean that your brother is a freshman, right? So
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
very stark difference
Yeah.
between
Mhm.
even the music you listen to
Mm.
and the
Yeah.
things that are in pop culture and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
I get it. That's really fascinating. Did you recall a time when you thought a lot about your adoption? Were there triggers in the environment where you were reminded that you're adopted or that you made you think about your birth mother or anything like that?
Yeah, the key thing for me was when I started applying to university, I was 15. And the process really started when I was 14. I knew I wanted to leave home as soon as I could and then go to university. And because I was young for my school year and also I was in Scotland, it meant I could leave school and go to England to university at 16 when most people are going at 18 or 19. So what that meant was I had a lot of forms to fill out. So university application forms, student accommodation application forms, all sorts of forms, right, left and center, medical history forms. And of course, I couldn't answer any questions because I had no information about medical history. And that really got me to think about, well, who am I? Where do I come from? What is the medical history? What's in my future? How am I ever going to find out? My parents had always been very, very open with me, and they said, if and when you want to trace, we'll support you. So when I was 14, I went down to London and there was a place called the Triangle, and that's where they map the birth parents and the adoptees together. And I put all my information in, I did a big trace, and I actually found where my birth mother was at that point. But because I was under 16, I couldn't make contact because you have to do it through a social worker. So I had to wait till I was 16. I waited till I was 16. But of course, by that point, I moved to England. And because I lived in England, I had to wait till I was 18. And because they have different rules, right? So it was the whole university application process and that just natural curiosity of why have I got red hair? Why have I got much paler skin? Why am I built differently? Why don't I look like anybody? And they were the kind of questions I guess I started having when I was maybe 11, 12, 13, 14, and then the university application at 14, 15, filling out the forms. It was kind of like, ooh, what if there is some deadly disease running in the back of my family that I don't know about, that I'm never going to know about? And that's when I started to really have questions the first time around.
Okay, gotcha. And then can you clarify for me, what is the Triangle? Is that a public service or agency? What?
It was I don't know if it was public, but it was an agency that you could go to with your questions about your adoption. And because legally you weren't allowed to make connection from the parent to the child to the parent at that point, and the laws have changed now. It was somewhere that you could go, and if there were records, then you might be able to access more information. Instead of going, I know that my birth mother was round about this age and then starting at 19 whatever, and then going through all their records, they narrowed the process down and helped you locate records about births, marriages, and deaths from your own original record back to potentially your mother's record, and then your father's if his name was on the birth certificate, the original birth certificate.
And so they did the service for you, but is it my understanding that because you were under 18, you couldn't actually get the information? Can you?
I had the information, but I wasn't allowed to connect because it had to be done through a social worker.
Ah, got it. So what did
Yeah.
you find in that information, and what did you think? What did it make you think of?
I discovered her name and I knew her age. I found out that I was born out of wedlock. I discovered that I was born Jewish and I've been raised Jewish. So it was done through an Orthodox Jewish agency. So I learned that that was all completely legit. It was really something I was curious about. I found out that she was from Birmingham, that she was a nurse, that she had had knee issues, and that I'd been born in London. And at that point, that was all I really knew.
And what did you think as you see her name? This has gone from a person who doesn't really exist in your mind as a real
Yeah.
entity to an actual person with a name. How was that hitting you?
Mm. It was weird. It was just kind of like, oh, there's someone out there that kind of chose to give me away. And I'd never thought about that before. I'd never thought about it because my parents had never done anything to make me question that that was their way of having a family, was to adopt. And they were about to adopt another child, and that I was the chosen one in the family. And I think that was the interesting thing. Even at my brother's wedding, I can't remember, I think it was my sister stood up and did a speech and she said, oh, Lauren was the chosen one. My brother was the natural one and she was the mistake, because they hadn't planned on having any more children. And I remember that really hitting me at the wedding because I was the one that they chose. They actually chose. And my sister's not a mistake and she's never been referred to. That's just her sense of humor. But it was really interesting to hear how they saw it through their eyes. So for
Yeah.
me, the only time that I ever really started to really understand it was when I did the trace, because I just did the trace because I'd always been brought up to know that I could. So why wouldn't I? It wasn't an emotional thing. It was just a curiosity thing. But when I got the information, I was like, oh, I wonder if I could ever have a child, if I could ever give up a child, could I do that? And that set off a lot of other thought processes.
So Lauren completed her trace of her birth mother at the age of 16, but because she had moved to Manchester, she had to wait until she was 18 to act on her findings through social services. She held on to the information for a few years and sort of forgot about it because she was busy with life, school exams, applying to university, and whatever was happening in her family at the time. She said she didn't have much emotion about her search back then.
And I just thought, how lucky am I that I was adopted by two loving parents who I've got a brother and sister. I grew up in a nice environment. I went to a good school and I've got whatever I want. I know that my parents are behind me and supporting me to do it. Like most people don't have that. So how lucky was I to have all of that from an adoption? And do I really want to do anything to jeopardize that by actually following through and meeting her or reaching out to her? And what I actually did was I took A4 paper and made into like a booklet. And I took one photograph from every year of my life and put it on one side and wrote a story about that year of my life on the other side. And when the time came to get in touch with social services, I was actually going to just give them the booklet and say, give that to my birth mother and let her know that I'm okay.
Wow, that's incredibly thoughtful. That's really, really amazing. That's cool. So what then happens with your desire to search? When did it actually hit you to execute on it?
When I turned 18, because obviously I went to uni at 16, so I had to wait. When I was 18, I reached out to social services. I gave them all the information. They took a bit of time to actually locate her and get in touch with me. And I'll never forget the phone call, because in my head, I was just tracing my birth mother. That's where it started and that's where it stopped. I never thought any further than that. And I remember where I was when I took the phone call from social services. I was in a friend's apartment who I lived there on and off. It was part of my youth group, and I would stay there when I was running the youth group in the weekends. I remember having the phone call on the Monday morning and the social worker saying, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine here. What is it?" She goes, "Well, we found her, but you've got two half brothers as well."
Wow.
And for some reason, to this day, that has an impact on me, and I don't know why. I've never really understood it. But the fact that she had two more children really affected me. It really made me feel emotional, and it went from being a process I was going through to find out facts about my health to something that was really emotional. And it made me realize I had no emotion about her because I had a mum and I had a mum and dad, and she'd given me the gift of the family I've got by giving me up. But knowing that I had two half brothers was the weirdest thing, because guess what? They're exactly the same ages as my brother and my sister,
Really? Oh, that's wild.
right?
So you're on a similar trajectory in a different life.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's fascinating. Wow.
Now they have a different father, but yeah, I've got two half brothers out there.
Gotcha. What else happens in this conversation with the social service worker who's telling you about this discovery?
She's, "Would you like to meet?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." Like the mother, just my birth mother. I was like, "Sure, okay." She goes, "Can you come down to Birmingham?" I was like, "Okay." So she had the booklet that I made up with the photographs and everything by this point. So she already had that. And we arranged to meet in social services offices. I had to sit there and wait. And then social services lady had to go and find her and then bring her in. And she came in and she said hello. And I felt nothing. I felt
Really?
nothing. I felt like she was a block of ice. It was weird. It was really weird. There was no emotion there at all. And
Was that
I just,
bi-directional? It was none from you and none from her?
there was absolutely nothing from her, from what I could tell. I was all geared up because I wanted to hear about my brothers and learn more about it. And then I got nothing from her. And I think I just shut down. I just went into complete like shutdown mode. But then we went out and we went for lunch, and the conversation didn't stop. But what was interesting was she brought her parents with.
She brought her parents with
She
her
brought
to
her
meet you?
parents to meet me.
Wow.
And I just thought they were the most amazing, amazing people ever. Like, Jack and Doris, they were amazing. They were asking all the questions. They were telling me all about her growing up and her family growing up. And they were just absolutely adorable. And then I found out they had adopted her.
Really?
So she didn't know any medical history either.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. Holy mackerel. So your birth mother is an adoptee as well.
Yes.
That's crazy. And do you know, did she attempt any kind of search and reunion with her own family?
I don't believe so. I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, because that was a different generation too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it wasn't as easy to do. There wasn't
Mhm.
as much emotional openness towards supporting a person's search.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to put assumptions on
Mm.
her lack of emotion with you, but I'm just trying to empathize with another adoptee who has placed a child for adoption and been found, but was
Yeah.
probably not able to do that for herself.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting combination of challenges
Yeah.
for her to
Yeah.
deal with as you're coming forward. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really interesting. But we went for lunch. I got on with her mum and dad really well. I got on with her fine too. And it was the parallels between the life that I have and the life that I might have had with her. It was like a straight line. It was like sliding doors.
Really?
It was like instead of Birmingham, it was Glasgow. Instead of a brother and sister at the age gaps, it was two brothers. The kind of religious beliefs, everything was the same. It was just like the same life in a different city with different people.
Unreal.
It was really interesting.
I'll bet it was. Well, let me ask this. You go out to lunch, you're at lunch with your birth mother and your maternal grandparents.
Mhm, mhm.
How does lunch end for you?
I don't really remember. I just remember we had a really great chat and her parents were amazing. It was really interesting meeting her. And we kept in touch. So, and I did go and meet her at her house, which was interesting. And that's when I met the boys. But that was when I also discovered that nobody knew about me.
Oh, really?
Nobody. Her mum, and her dad. That was it.
Wow. Did she reveal to you the situation around your conception and relinquishment?
Yeah, she was with her best friends at a party when she was 19. They had a bit too much to drink, and I was the result.
Oh, interesting. And did you ask her about your birth father and what was her response?
Mm. She said that she didn't want him to know, and that I traced her. I knew his name because it was on the original birth certificate. So I said to her, "Would you tell him that I'm well, that I'm doing good, and all the rest of it?" And she said she didn't feel that that was appropriate and that he wouldn't want to know. And as far as I know, she never told him. I actually know that she never told him, and I can tell you why in a minute. But yeah, she was not interested in anyone else knowing that she'd had me. Yeah, yeah, I believe so, because her family and he live in Birmingham, and she was a nurse in London. So I was out of sight of anybody.
Lauren's birth mother kept her birth a secret from everybody else except for her birth father. Her birth mother didn't discuss the details of her pregnancy, but Lauren knows what hospital her birth mother was working at, which hospital she was born in, and it's pretty clear she was destined for foster care from the start. But Lauren and her birth mother's conversations were limited to her birth mother's life after Lauren's birth. I asked Lauren what their relationship was like after their reunion meeting. She characterized it as
Really weird. I mean, what do you expect? You've got no precedent. Like, you grow up with your friends and they all have different relationships with their parents, and you've got your relationship with your parents, and we all have good, bad, and ugly in every aspect of all our lives. And we've got lots of examples of other things going on, but you don't have lots of examples of other people who have traced birth parents, right? There isn't a precedent. You don't know what you're supposed to feel or think or behave. And so we did keep in touch, and I was phenomenally curious about the boys. So she invited me over. So she explained that the man that was my father wasn't on the scene. They'd been best friends, but had never been boyfriend and girlfriend. Obviously, they'd been busy, but they'd never gotten together as a couple. Then she got with someone else and had the boys, and then she was now living with this third person. So I went to the house and met with him. He went out. I had tea with her. We had a conversation. And the younger boy was there, Simon was there, and we just got on like a house on fire. We laughed and we joked, and it was just crazy. It was like we'd known each other all our life. It was
Wow.
insane. And then Simon came home, and he's a swimmer, and I was very sporty as well. And we sat down and we started talking about training and competitions, and we were good at the same subjects at school, and we looked alike with same skin tone, same hair color, even though we had different father. And if you saw the three of us, there was no doubt that we were related to one another. So they were told I was a long distant cousin, but we got on so well. And then the boys both had to go off to clubs. And then it was just me back in the house again with her. And it was fine. It was great. And then I never saw her again after that. And about 10 years later, I called her and I said, look, we're all older now. The boys are growing up. They've got their own families. Is it not time that we could tell them? Would you be willing to share that with them? Nope. Don't you ever go down that road. That's not your story to tell. I was like, okay. Anyway, that was it. That's been it ever since.
Well, let me pause you for a quick second.
Yeah, go on.
So you go to her home.
Mhm.
You have, it sounds like a wonderful day or afternoon
Mm.
with her, and the boys come home
Mhm.
and they are introduced to you, but as a distant cousin. It is never
Yep.
revealed that you
No.
are actually their older biological sister.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
go on never getting to know that you are that sister.
Mhm.
And then it sounds like you said 10 years have gone by.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've probably been in and out of touch with her over time.
Mhm.
And at no point does she reveal this to them and has
No.
locked you off from ever
Oh,
saying
yeah,
anything
yeah, yeah.
to them. That's really wild.
Yeah.
In 2003, Lauren got the opportunity to travel with England's rugby team to Australia. She said she was keen to explore the country as a possible new home for her for a while, but the move made her think through the loose ends from her life. Her adoptive family was back in the UK, and she wasn't sure she could leave them. Further contemplation brought Lauren to the realization that she had never met her birth father.
So I traced and I got his address and I wrote him a letter and I forgot about it. Months went by and I'm just about to pack my bags to go to Australia for 3 months or 4 months. And I get a phone call. Hi, Lauren, it's Malcolm. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I had one of my girlfriends round and he said, your letter landed on the doorstep and my partner picked it up. And I opened it. She handed it to me and I opened it and I read it out. And she didn't know. She's an American lady. So we end up having this incredible conversation, like we'd known each other all our life.
Really?
It was phenomenal. I don't know how long we were on the phone for, but we talked and we talked and we talked. And I explained I was going to Australia and I said, look, I'll be in touch. And if you want, then, when I come back, I'll get in touch. And we just had this really lovely, warm, caring, curious, non-judgmental conversation that I came off the phone so excited. And then I felt really guilty because of my dad. And I was like so conflicted and I felt like I betrayed him. I just felt like it was wrong to have had that phone call and to have reached out, but it was right. It obviously was the right thing to do for me at that moment in time. I don't regret it. But I had a very different experience of reaching out to him than I had done to her. And we have never seen each other again. I've been in Birmingham since, and I've driven past where I know he lived. I'm not sure if he's still there or not. I don't know if she's still alive or not either. I don't know. I'm not going to do anything to find out.
Never seen him again. You did see him once?
I had a phone call with him.
Oh, really?
That was it. That's all. Just a phone call. I don't know what he looks like. I know nothing else.
What? So what happened then after this phone call? I presume you left for Australia, you came back. Did you reach back out to him to try to make a connection?
I did reach back out, but I didn't hear anything. And I just thought, you know what? I felt so conflicted about my relationship with my dad that I didn't pursue it. And I thought if it's meant to be, then he'll follow it up. But I never heard again.
Interesting. One of the things that we do when we have curiosities about people is we sort of cyber stalk them online. You sort of you look for their Facebook and you try to find people. Did you try to find some elements of his life online or anything like that?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, they're different generation. They didn't grow up with Facebook. And I think my birth mother and my two brothers that I grew up with, I don't think they're on Facebook because what I did find out was my birth mother has an adopted brother and
Really?
he is a counselor in Birmingham for the local government. And he is trying to trace his birth mother.
Is that right? Wow. So you're
Um,
watching this from afar.
yeah. I just found this out over the last few years, but he's on Facebook, and so that's really interesting.
So
And
you
then I
watch his journey from afar?
not very often, but I also seen him at because I knew because one of my best friends, an old boyfriend from years ago, goes to the same synagogue as their family,
Uh-huh.
so I get snippets
Oh, that's so
because the communities are small, right? So everybody
yeah.
knows everybody.
Of course, yeah.
And my best friend, my old boyfriend, who's also an adoptee,
Really?
so he gets it. So he
Oh,
gets my
yeah.
curiosity.
Oh, that's really interesting. Huh. So you never did you I guess you didn't get to learn from your birth father about any paternal siblings,
So I don't think he didn't have any children.
really? Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. This is
No,
such
they
an interesting phenomenon to me where the adopted person is the only child of a any birth
mm,
parent in the
mhm,
world, and yet
yeah.
they don't wanna have a relationship
Mhm,
with
mhm,
child. It's
mhm,
so fascinating to me that
yeah,
folks could just be comfortable having a child out in the world that they don't actually know.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, really wild. May I ask then how you said that you had some guilt, some loyalty guilt
yeah.
towards your adoptive father at the very least. How did you share your adoption reunion journey with your adoptive family?
Well, they knew everything about the birth mother. I just told them about it. It was just very factual, very non-emotional. There was nothing to share or to tell that I felt. They always knew I was going to trace, and I traced, and I told them, and that was it. Like I never questioned that at all with the mother. And I told my dad about tracing the birth father when I next was in Glasgow because I couldn't do it on the phone. And I remember us both being really emotional and him feeling very betrayed, I guess, in the moment of me telling him. But I think when he realized that I'd felt so bad and that I had not taken it any further, that was a one off conversation once and done, and we've never revisited it.
Mm,
So it was
yeah.
very weird.
That is interesting too, and I can't help thinking one of the things you started off this conversation with was the notion that your adoptive parents said that if you ever wanted to search, they were supportive. But
Mhm.
it actually happened, he got emotional. It sounds like the same kind of thing as when you discovered that your birth mother was an actual person. Then it
Yeah.
hit home, you right? They
Yeah.
had said they were supportive, and that's
Mhm.
amazing. But then when the rubber hit the road and the search actually started, they went, "Oh, there's real
No,
people."
I think no, I think they were fine the whole way through, me tracing her, finding her, meeting her. There was no issue there at all. I think we're really solid in our relationship. But because I spoke to the father so much later on, it was like a separate exploration and
Uh-oh.
unexpected and came from nowhere because it wasn't like this build up over years. It was like this out of nowhere. Suddenly I'm telling them that I've done this additional trace.
I see. I got you. I got you.
So
It
yeah,
felt
I
like
think
you were done with your search. It
yeah,
like
yeah.
filled whatever curiosity, and then years and years later, your
Hmm.
curiosity has gone on. You've written a
Hmm.
letter, this thing has
Hmm.
come back, and the guy Malcolm
Hmm.
has called you, and now suddenly there's new news that they didn't even know
Yeah,
there's still an investigation happening. I see.
yeah.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. Huh. So you don't have any relationship with your birth father. Where are you with your birth mother?
I don't know if either of them are alive. I don't know anything about either of them at all now.
Hmm.
So I just figured that we'd connected. If anything more was supposed to happen, it would have happened. And I'm just very grateful for the family that I have got because I know and recognize that that's so much more than so many other people have ever have the opportunity. And if I had been with her, she's been married and divorced several times. The different children from different. It would have been a very different life experience. So I'm just kind of
Yeah,
yeah,
you got it done. You checked the box. You figured it out.
yeah.
Let me ask you. two more questions. One, if you don't mind, do you have children of your own?
I have a son.
How was your parenting experience as an adopted person with your son?
I'm a sole parent,
Hmm.
so we're very close, and it's always been the two of us. And I think that I'm just there for him no matter what, giving him the best education I can afford, try to be there as much as possible as a sole parent who's working full time, and making sure that I always make an effort to make sure, although we don't live in Scotland beside my family, that we have good connections and that he sees a lot of them and he knows that he's very close to his family as well. That's been very important to me, that he's got that sense of a family bond because we live far away.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to bring us home with your profession. Remind me what you do, and I'd love for you to tie back to some of your initial health concerns that you talked about
Mm.
before, just generally not so much concerns, but lack of knowledge. So
Yeah,
tell me what your current profession is and what you focus on, and how does that tie
sure.
back to the lack of health knowledge that you had previously?
I think there's always, as an adoptee, if you haven't got that history, you never know when people say, is there any history of heart disease in your family? Is there any history of whatever? You're like, I don't know. And so it does, well, it left me feeling kind of like, oh, there's a gap in my knowledge. There's stuff I should know about. Anyway, I had a premature menopause. I went into menopause after I had my son at 37, and it threw me for a loop. And I left my job at the time thinking I had early onset dementia, and then discovered that I'd just been through a premature menopause. And that was the point that I wanted to make sure that nobody else went through what I went through. So back in 2014, I set up Women of a Certain Stage. And this is where I've been learning about menopause, and I go out into the world and work with large corporate organizations to help them become menopause savvy and menopause supportive through training, workshops, and talks. And I also run an academy where we certify people all around the world to become menopause coaches and menopause champions so that they can help people in their local communities and workplaces as well, so that we can just lose the stigma and help people to successfully navigate a time of life, which very often women are left to the cold and the rain and they don't get the support that they need. But if they've got the right knowledge, then they can get that and just carry on having the life that they want.
That's really amazing work. Tell me, if you don't mind, you said you thought it was early onset dementia. As a
Mm.
man, I'm not going through menopause that I know of. So what does this mean, right? What were you experiencing that was so off-putting and disorienting that you
Yeah.
think such an extreme thing only to realize it was menopause? What was going on in your life?
I've been headhunted to a very senior role in financial services, and I was leading global regulatory and compliance change. So a lot of very kind of heavy intellectual discussions about what the regulators wanted us to do and what did that mean and how we were going to do it. And I had teams all over the world. So I used to thrive in all that kind of intellectual stimulation and debate. And I loved building teams and delivering change. And then I'd find myself sitting in a board meeting and my throat would be so tight with anxiety, I'd have to sip hot water to be able to speak the smallest of sentences. Or I would look at somebody and name would just completely escape me. Or I'd be asked to make a business critical decision and I would be questioning my own judgment. I would
Mhm.
have to like double check, double check. My team would have to remind me what meeting I was supposed to be in and make sure I had a meeting pack to go to the meeting and remind me of what my actions were. Whereas I used to go into meetings like I had no notes. I would remember everything everyone said. I would know what everybody's actions were. And it just was this kind of loss of confidence, loss of sharpness, loss of recall and retention of information. And having watched my grandmother go through dementia and Alzheimer's, I just started seeing lots of similarities. And I couldn't think what else it could be because I was otherwise really fit, healthy, and strong. And I was like, well, maybe I need to, leave work and figure out how I look after myself and how my son gets looked after.
Mhm.
And then I found out it was just menopause.
It was just menopause.
Just menopause.
That is crazy. Wow. Well, thank you for your work. I'm sensitive to the topic, and my wife has worked through her own menopause issues, and thankfully is in a much better place. And I've got buddies who have wives who
Yeah.
have gone through the same kinds of things, and it's the kind of challenge that can very much break a marriage or any relationship. Right? It's very, very tough to endure. So I appreciate you bringing awareness to it, and I appreciate you being here for telling your story, because I get the sense that you talk about your professional piece and menopause quite a bit, but that you don't so much talk about the adoption component. And I was so glad that we were able to talk about that when we met in the JT Fox community. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I've never spoken about it before, so yeah, I wasn't sure what would come up. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Truly my pleasure. All the best to you, Lauren. Thank you.
You too.
Hey, it's me. Lauren grew up the chosen one as an adoptee in her home in Glasgow. I thought it was interesting that her father chose to take her brother to all of the activities they used to do together. It could have been that he was excited to have a son, or it could have been that Lauren had her turn and it was time for the next child to get time with dad. It's a funny thing that adoptees end up examining in situations like this through our different lenses. It was fascinating to hear that Lauren's birth mother had been devoid of emotion when they first met, but that she brought her own parents to the reunion and that her birth mother is adopted too. Like I said near the end, her birth father knows he has a child in the world, but has never pursued getting to know Lauren despite not having any other children. I just can't conceive of knowing I had a kid out there and never meeting my daughter, especially someone as special as Lauren. I'm going to post a pic of Lauren and myself at the Mega Success Red Party. The photo won't do us justice because Lauren was gorgeous in a flowing red dress and I was kinda dapper in red pants and a red tie. More important than our outfits was our connection and something special between adoptees. I'm Damon Davis, and I hope you found something in Lauren's journey that inspired you, validates your feelings about wanting to search, or motivates you to have the strength along your journey to learn, who am I really?